Apple has been incredibly successful over the years, selling iPhone after iPhone. It is the most popular phone in the world, and the iPhone alone makes up about 50% of Apple's total revenue. Combined with the fact that most of their service revenue is also from iPhone services, Apple's main business continues to be dominated by the iPhone, enough so that every other product they make, from the Mac to the iPad to the Apple Watch, even combined, does not sell as much as the iPhone. However, despite all this iPhone success, there is a unique problem here that Apple has not been able to solve: the idea of a third flagship iPhone. Yes, in the Mac world, it is not uncommon for Apple to have so many different computers to sell to customers. There's the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, the iMac, the Mac Mini, the Mac Studio, Mac Pro, kinda. Multiple models, different strengths, different weaknesses, different price points, a computer for everyone for something that makes up around, 11% of Apple's business. Let's look at the iPad. You have the regular iPad, the iPad Mini, the iPad Air, and the iPad Pro. Even the Apple Watch has the Apple Watch SE, the Apple Watch Series 11, and the Apple Watch Ultra, all with different price points, features, and designs. But then let's look at the main iPhone lineup. You have the iPhone 16e, the iPhone 17, the iPhone Air, and the iPhone 17 Pro, and I guess a different size Pro Max. Now, yes, on paper, this is a pretty big iPhone lineup with different price points, features, designs, you name it. However, the problem here that Apple can't seem to fix is the idea of having that third flagship iPhone in the lineup. They've tried it with the iPhone mini, focusing on a smaller form factor, something a lot of Apple fans actually said they wanted at the time, and that led to around, at most, 5% of iPhone sales. They tried it again with the opposite approach, with the iPhone Plus models. Instead of going smaller, they went bigger. And this led to a more popular iPhone, but not by much, because for the 3-year plus run the Plus had, this accounted for around 7 to 10% of total iPhone sales. Still, a marked improvement, but Apple may have realized why these phones weren't selling well, because they were just different sizes of the same standard iPhone model. So this time, they tried something a lot more radical. A true third iPhone model that was actually different. You saw me pull it out before. The iPhone Air. And during the run-up to the iPhone 17 launch, this was one of the most talked about, the most hyped iPhones in the rumor mill. Why? Because it came with an entirely new design. It looked fantastic when they finally revealed this during the Apple presentation, and it is the thinnest iPhone ever made, which is kind of cool in its own right. Yes, it has a unique form factor. It has the faster A19 Pro chip, and despite its thinness, it ended up being the most durable iPhone ever released. Even areas where users thought the iPhone Air would be significantly compromised, like battery life, the iPhone Air actually turned out to be pretty in line what you would expect from a modern iPhone model. But that's not even that big of a weakness with how fast you can charge a modern day smartphone, and chargers in general have gotten so advanced lately, like the Anker Smart Display Charger, the world's first smart display charger that knows your iPhone. Yes, it's actually smart enough to recognize that you are plugging an iPhone into it. It completely recognizes the iPhone Air or my iPhone 17 Pro, and it even shows the iPhone's battery percentage right on the power brick. It can also recognize my iPad Pro, so even with the Magic Keyboard case closed, I can still see the exact battery percentage. And this fits easily into any setup with its 180-degree rotating folding prong. It can adapt to fit into even the tightest charging spaces at any angle. And with its incredibly small footprint, it has 45 watts of high-powered charging, so it is the perfect travel charger. It also makes your device's battery age more gracefully with Anker's Care mode. By double tapping the top of the charger, it provides a gentle charge that keeps your device 9 degrees cooler while also keeping the charger 36 degrees cooler, helping extend the long-term battery life of your devices. And if you click my link in the description below, you can get 25% off the Anker Smart Display Charger. And thank you to Anker for sponsoring this video. But even with all this attention to a truly unique third iPhone model that was actually different than the regular or the Pro model, by all estimates, it doesn't look like this phone is any more successful than the previous attempts. In fact, it it may be worse. It looks like the overall percentage of sales is around 3 to maybe 5% of total iPhone sales, around the same percentage as the iPhone mini. And this is not because the iPhone 17 lineup as a whole has failed. It actually has turned out to be one of Apple's most successful iPhone launches ever, with the base iPhone 17 sales being higher than expected and the Pro and Pro Max models selling more than ever before. But that does lead to the question, why did the Mini, the Plus, and now the Air fail? And should Apple just give up on the idea of expanding the iPhone lineup with a different iPhone model? Well, let's answer that first question. I think the iPhone Air failed, not necessarily because this is a bad phone, because I think in a vacuum, the iPhone Air is actually a good phone. Ask anyone that picks it up, and they will tell you that they like the futuristic thin design. It also probably is the best current looking iPhone model out right now with the titanium sides, and it is really the only iPhone that I would say that currently has a premium fit and finish that we have come to expect from the previous Pro models. It really is the most striking looking iPhone model available right now, and even picking this up for this video months after launch, I am still impressed with this ultra thin design. I mean, come on, I gotta take my 17 Pro out here. Oh, yeah, why does this feel old and clunky? I mean, this is still really impressive to me. So, great design, good performance, good camera, decent battery life, but 120 hertz and a big screen and a phone that looks radically different than what came before it. This checks all of the boxes of a traditional iPhone upgrade. So, why isn't this a smash hit? Well, I don't think it's actually the fault of the iPhone Air. I think it's the fault of Apple making the iPhone 17 too good to justify over the iPhone Air. As great as the Air is, its main weakness is the price point. It retails for $1,000, and when you look at the main specs, you'll start to notice something else. Everything the iPhone Air can do, the iPhone 17 can do as well, and sometimes better at a cheaper price point. That is never good. In fact, you get the same screen. It is a little smaller, but it's the same exact display quality. It has very similar performance, especially when you figure for the thermal throttling of the Air. It has the same storage, the same front camera, the same main rear camera, and then the iPhone 17 has better battery life and a second ultra-wide camera for $200 less. I think that's something that even as a customer who can really appreciate the slick design of the iPhone Air rationally, it is hard to justify that increase in costs purely for the design alone. And it doesn't have any exclusive features like something we might see on the Pro model. It doesn't even have any of the Pro camera features despite it having an A19 Pro chip. And because of these poor sales, there's even been reports saying that Apple may just give up on the idea of the iPhone Air even after just one generation. There's also conflicting reports saying that they're looking to improve the iPhone Air with things that I kind of rattled off before. Things like a dual camera system that would make it a better value. They're also exploring maybe adding a vapor chamber cooling to get the performance a little bit better. So maybe they're hoping to upgrade the iPhone Air 2 with some things that people would consider deal breakers now to make it a better phone and make it actually look like it belongs in the lineup compared to the iPhone 17. Still, I don't know if that will entirely fix the iPhone Air's problems. Sure, having a more expensive model, have more features than the base model, is probably a good start to have people actually considering buying this phone. But $1,000 is still going to be the sticking point for so many users for a phone that either doesn't do much more than the cheaper model or one that is still limited compared to the Pro models. However, that being said, I don't think Apple should give up with the idea of pushing the technology forward. There was a time when the MacBook Air wasn't the default MacBook. You probably don't remember this. It used to be the third option in between the MacBook and the MacBook Pro. And just like the iPhone Air for the first few years on the market, even with that bleeding edge design, the MacBook Air suffered because you were paying a lot more for a product that wasn't as capable as the cheaper MacBook. Over time though, the MacBook Air, it gained more features, it became more powerful, and eventually it got cheaper, which meant that it replaced the MacBook as the entry-level laptop. That same thing needs to happen to the iPhone Air. It needs to get cheaper. It needs to gain more features, and eventually, instead of not keeping the iPhone Air around, I think this design, this concept, might replace the regular iPhone model in the lineup. And I think that is what Apple should do. Keep the iPhone Air around, reiterate it, improve it until it's better than the base model iPhone, lower the costs, and then replace the regular iPhone model completely. Then you will have two really cool looking phones, the iPhone Air and the iPhone Pro. Very different phones aimed at very different users. That would actually make a lot more sense in the lineup because they would be so different than even the iPhone 17 and the iPhone 17 Pro, which currently also share so many similarities. Now, I know what you're thinking. That still doesn't really solve our question of the third iPhone model. Sure, you can argue maybe the cheaper 16E or the future 17E could be that third iPhone model, but again, it's kind of just like a cheaper version of an iPhone. You know, it hits that lower price point, and some fairness there. The E does seem to be more popular. It's around 11% of iPhone sales. So it's more popular than the Mini Plus or the Air model. So I guess there's that. But again, this isn't really pushing iPhones farther. It's just making a budget level iPhone. I think there's more room in the lineup for other iPhones. But instead of going cheaper, I think Apple, and you might not like this answer, they need to start going more expensive. They need to make a higher end iPhone. Phone models that are packed with more features, advanced designs, and extreme power and capabilities. I think that has the potential to be more popular because a true third flagship iPhone model needs to be different. It needs to have a real reason for people to purchase it. And I think we may actually see that theory tested pretty soon because Apple is rumored to release their first foldable iPhone at the end of this year. A foldable iPhone with a bigger inner display with a unique design that actually functions and works differently than the iPhone models we currently have. It's also rumored to debut at, you guessed it, a higher price point, with rumors quoting around $2,000 for the starting price of this phone. I think this will be the real test to see if Apple can actually expand the iPhone lineup and if they can truly make a different iPhone model actually succeed. And if this new lineup does succeed, I think we'll see even more interesting phones eventually added to this lineup because they should keep trying because there's a lot more that they can do with this form factor. All right, let me know what your thoughts are below on the idea of a third iPhone model. What do you think Apple can do to actually make this compelling to customers? Do you think that's a fix to the iPhone Air? Do you think that's a more expensive iPhone model like I think it is? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. And thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Look at that, a minute left on the SD card. I'm such a professional.